As you might have heard, there are people peacefully protesting at the Supreme Court. Now, when I use the term peacefully protesting, I actually mean it. I'm not referring to the Trump riots of January 6th, which were extraordinarily violent and criminal, and saying it was a peaceful protest. I'm actually talking about just peaceful protests protected by the First Amendment with permits, even permits for the speech. And yesterday, Florida Republican Governor Ron DeSantis was in New York. And he said that those protesters at the Supreme Court are engaging in an insurrection. And this is something we've seen many times from Republicans. When they do a thing, they start saying it is the left who is actually doing that thing. When a word starts to be part of the milieu, they start to use the word and try to redefine it or change it, which is funny because it's what they accuse the left of doing. Oh, the left is trying to redefine woman. The left is trying to read this. Right. But now you're saying that just a protest is an insurrection because you don't like the fact that your side did a horrible, riotous insurrection attempt on January 6th of 2021. So let's look at what Ron DeSantis said, not sounding, I will say, like the biggest supporter of the First Amendment here.
What they're trying to bring is attention to the fact that the Supreme Court may overturn Roe v. Wade later today, or then again, the coverage could come out next week when they ultimately do issue their opinion.
Well, I think that we have a rule of law in this country, and you don't get to just have a mob descend on a Supreme Court justice's house or try to impede the operations of government because there may be a decision you don't like. That would be considered an insurrection to stop a court from functioning, and yet they seem to be able to get away with a lot more than if the shoe were on the other foot. So,
okay, so listen, we have to break these things down one by one. First and foremost, the armed person who went to Kavanaugh's house, absolutely outrageous, seemingly criminal. Arrest him, charge him, throw the book at him 100%. In terms of the protests in general at the justices' houses, I've already said it is for law enforcement and the Justice Department to figure out when is it legal and when is it not. There are elements of that are absolutely protected by free speech. And there are elements of it that may go over, and it has to do with the specifics of where the protest is taking place, etc. But the protesters at the Supreme Court are not trying to shut down the Supreme Court. They are making their voices heard, and it is a permitted, peaceful protest, a real permitted, peaceful protest, unlike what happened on January 6th. And think of the absurdity, right? I mean, on the one hand, they want us to believe January 6th was fine, despite the fact that there was violence, there were people entering the building, there were people chanting to hang the vice president, there were people stealing stuff, there were people breaking windows. That was nothing. That was fine. It was peaceful. It was tourists. It was whatever. On the other hand, the current Supreme Court protests, no violence. They have permits. They're not entering the building. They're not chanting to hang anyone. They're not stealing stuff. They're not breaking windows. That we're supposed to believe is an insurrection. And of course, hopefully the interviewer would point that out and ask a follow-up question. But at the end of the day, it is Fox News. By the way, they haven't even built gallows to hang anyone at the Supreme Court protests, which is an interesting, notable thing. So the real concern here is, I mean, listen, DeSantis is a clown, but the real concern is if these people get power back in November in the House and or Senate, which they may, if DeSantis becomes the next president, I mean, I know it's early, but he's doing really well in 2024 primary polling, and he's not even running. And he's less incompetent than Trump. It's not inconceivable that he could become president. If these people get power, and they may get it back soon, what does it actually mean for peace, for real peaceful protest? What does it mean for criticism of the government or whatever the case may be? Extraordinarily scary and dystopian stuff.